Hi, I'm Tom from Malaysia, and today we are going to be talking about sidechain compression. Compressors come in all shapes and topologies. Their controls vary from one or two knobs to very complex layouts. The one thing they all share is the presence of two signal paths, the audio path and the sidechain. The sidechain is where the detector of the compressor is located. It analyzes the input signal and generates compression according to your settings of attack, release, ratio, and so on. Question is, what happens if we disconnect the internal sidechain and feed an external control signal into the compressor instead? Not every compressor can do this, but if your machine has an internal sidechain input, you have the ticket for some very cool compression tricks like groove-oriented compression, frequency-dependent compression, or ducking. Let's have a look at how this works. The purpose of groove compression is to enhance the rhythm of the music. To do this, we will choose a rhythmical element that will route to the external sidechain input of our compressor, so every time it plays, it is detected by the sidechain. As a result, it will compress the signal at the input in perfect sync. If we choose the kick drum of this beat as our trigger and route it to our external sidechain input, here is the kind of motion we can bring to this pad. The effect is also known as pumping. We can also use the release knob of our compressor to impart a different feel or swing to our groove. Any type of music can benefit from this technique. It doesn't have to be always obvious, and a small amount can already enhance the existing groove. Check out the reverb on this drum kit. Low end is where you get the most energy in the frequency spectrum. As a consequence, it is the frequency area that the detector circuit will be the most sensitive to. The problem is that depending on other parameters, low end can create some unwanted artifacts, such as pumping and distortion. Chances are also good we will lose the punch of our track if we compress the low end too much. Unless we EQ the sidechain signal to lower or emphasize a certain frequency area. To do this, we can use two different options. The sidechain filter, usually a high-pass filter that will attenuate the low end, or sending a mult of our input signal to an EQ to shape its frequency response, and route it back into the sidechain so it reacts to our input signal exactly the way we want. This way, we can select the frequency area we want to address without compromising the other bands. Here is an example of the effect of a sidechain filter, and we'll start with the filter engaged. In this other example, we'll EQ a mode of the process track to selectively compress a certain problematic area. The goal here is to make the vocal less aggressive in the higher mid-range, and for this, we'll boost the sidechain signal in the frequency area we want to address. We'll start by the dry signal.
To give yourself a chance, you had to give yourself a chance. To give yourself a chance, you had to give yourself a chance. To give yourself a chance, you had to give yourself a chance. To give yourself a chance, you had to give yourself a chance. To give yourself a chance, you had to give yourself a chance.
The same idea applies to analog. Let's say we're working with stems and need to fix a kick and snare bus where the snare is too loud by 3 dB. To solve this problem, we'll use the send of the expressor that will route to an EQ to attenuate the low end of the kick and boost the high end. We send that back to the external sidechain input, so the detector hears the snare, not the kick. Ducking prevents two signals from stepping on one another by bringing down the volume of one signal when the other one comes in. It's a great technique when you need to make room for elements competing for the same space. A perfect example of this technique is actually me talking over this background music. You just need to route a mode or send of the leading signal to the external sidechain, so every time it comes in, it triggers compression on the target signal present in the audio path of the compressor. Make sure you adjust the release time so it makes a smooth volume transition. And if, like me, you're using an impressor or expressor, make sure you also use the gain reduction limiter so the target signal doesn't drop in volume too much if the leading signal peaks real high. We hope you like this tutorial, and we'll see you next time. Thanks for watching.